Good evening, my name is Katarzyna Nowicka and welcome to Poland Daily News. The Polish government has extended the restrictions introduced in connection with battling the coronavirus epidemic to the 19th of April. This covers, among others, the ban on assemblies, closing shopping malls and service companies, as well as restrictions on movement. The government has also postponed final exams in elementary schools and high schools. According to data announced today by the Ministry of Health, the number of patients infected with coronavirus in Poland is over 5,500. Present restrictions in the movement of people, functioning of stores and shopping malls, closure of cultural institutions, as well as closure of recreational facilities such as parks, playgrounds and walking trails are enforced until April 19th. Polish schools, kindergartens and nurseries will be closed until April 26th, as well as passenger air traffic and international travel by train. The amount of Holy Mass participants stays limited to 5 people and will be enforced during Easter celebrations. The country's borders remain closed until May 3rd, and the ban on organizing public events remains enforced until further notice. The Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has recommended that all Poles should refrain from traditional visits to family and friends during the Easter holidays.
Pierwsze od dawna święta, kiedy nie zobaczę się z rodziną.
This will be the first Easter in a long time that I will not meet my extended family. Moreover, I will not see my mother. I will spend this Easter with my wife and children, the immediate family I am living with now. This is important. According to experts, if we do not practice social distancing, we pose the risk of increasing the cases of infection by around 50,000 more, as opposed to serious social distancing.
Wzrostu zachorowań.
Starting next Thursday, a new regulation is to be introduced in the form of a requirement of covering one's nose and mouth, using a mask or any similar covering. The requirement will be enforced in all public places, stores, administration offices and workplaces.
Nie mówimy, że musi być to maseczka, może być to chustka, może być to szalik.
We are not saying that it must be an actual mask. It can be a piece of cloth, a scarf or similar item. Specific details will be announced after Easter.
Od czwartku poświątecznego.
According to a statement by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, the proposed timetable to return the country to a normal state will be announced after the holidays. The Polish Anti-Crisis Shield, a set of laws adopted by the Sejm allowing Polish companies to maintain jobs and their financial liquidity, will be extended by over 220 billion zloty. Today, President Andrzej Duda proposed 2 additional solutions, which according to him are very much expected by entrepreneurs.
Przedstawiłem dzisiaj panu premierowi 2 propozycje.
Today I presented 2 proposals to Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, which are my expectations to meet the growing needs of entrepreneurs. These were accepted by both the Prime Minister and Minister of Development Jadwiga Emilewicz. Firstly, all entrepreneurs should be obliged to pay ZUS or social insurance contributions for their employees for a period of 3 months as support for them in this difficult time. Secondly, that the Anti-Crisis Shield should also include all entrepreneurs who began their activity before March 1st, 2020, a time when it was difficult to assess the severity of the crisis we are currently dealing with.
Przepisami tarczy antykryzysowej.
During an interview for Polskie Radio, the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, said that he is in favor of holding the Polish presidential elections on May the 10th, provided that the security of Poles is maintained.
Trzeba stworzyć takie warunki, żeby bezpiecznie przeprowadzić wybory.
Appropriate conditions must be created in order to hold the elections safely. The idea of postal voting seems to be a good solution. Postal voting, which took place during a very serious epidemiological situation some time ago in Bavaria, was a success. Voter turnout was very high, over 50%. It is something that we can do in Poland. If the elections were to be held that way, in accordance with the law, I'm in favor of this, but only if the security of Poles is maintained. This is all I can say about the elections. As announced by the Speaker of the Sejm, Elżbieta Witek, the date of the elections remains the same, and that is May 10th.
Dzisiaj terminem wyborów, zgodnie z tym, co ogłosiła pani marszałek, jest cały czas 10 maja.
According to a survey conducted by the IBRIS Research Institute for Onet.pl, if the presidential elections were to be held now, President Andrzej Duda would win in the first round. According to the survey, only 36% of those eligible to vote are going to take part in the elections. If the presidential elections were to be held now, only one round would be enough to resolve them, according to the IBRIS survey for Onet. Andrzej Duda would win decisively with 52.9% of votes. Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz and Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska are fighting for second place. For the time being, the leader of the Polish People's Party can count on 12.6% of the votes, while the current deputy speaker of the Sejm can count on the support of 11.4% of respondents. The remaining candidates do not exceed the 10% threshold. 7.3% of respondents support Robert Biedroń, Szymon Hołownia has 5.5% and Krzysztof Bosak 3.2% of votes. 7.1% of respondents do not know who they would vote for. Less than 40% of the respondents declare their willingness to participate in the elections. 61% of respondents do not intend to take part in the vote, while 2.2% of respondents have not yet made a decision on the matter. Slovakia has closed off several gypsy settlements in the eastern part of the country after reports of a cluster of coronavirus cases in 3 of them. Local NGOs accuse the government of applying discriminatory actions in the case. Slovak authorities announced they would ensure food deliveries and access to healthcare in the enclaves. Prime Minister Igor Matovic announced on Wednesday that at least 31 individuals had tested positive for the coronavirus and added that the lockdown was not a hostile act against the Roma, but an essential quarantine measure. It is not a special measure that we will now implement in Krompachy. These are the practices used by epidemiologists and public health professionals anywhere in the world. Simply, when the number of those infected reaches a certain number, the whole area needs to be quarantined. This is not a hostile act. Slovakia began widespread testing in Roma settlements on April 3rd amid concerns that crowded living conditions and inadequate hygiene could accelerate infection. We shall order the affected municipalities to prohibit and restrict contact between the infected part of the population with the rest of the population. Roma communities across Eastern Europe are often impoverished, plagued by high unemployment, and live in unsanitary conditions. The chief hygienist of Slovakia states that cultural factors did contribute to the decision to quarantine the infected population. We initially thought about quarantining the population infected with the virus. However, considering local conditions and habits, we have decided to close certain settlements. Slovakia has reported 682 cases of coronavirus infections, as well as 2 deaths. That's all for tonight. Now on to Poland Daily Business with Aleksander Wierzejski and his guest. Good night.